What is up, y'all? I am Marcel, your designated hype person, and today we are taking the hill with Miss Caite Opfer. Now, I know you guys are used to us being outside, being outdoors, taking the hill, and do not worry, we are still going to be outside, whether it's Harlem Hill or hill in your area. We are still going to be outside taking the hill. But we also want to have an opportunity to have some more intimate conversations with some of our guests. And so Miss Caite Opfer has decided to come in and sit and have a discussion with us today. And so we are looking forward to really just hearing this phenomenal woman's story. She is just such an inspiration, and she has found this ability to take her challenges, to take her hills, and to harvest community from them, to find the light and the love in every discomfort that she's had to endure. And so I'm looking forward to diving into today's discussion with you, with our guests. Thank you guys so much for joining me for this episode of We Take the Hill. We are inside today, not outside, but we are still going to go on a journey of challenges and triumphs. And today we are sitting here with Miss Caite Opfer.
Hell yeah. So excited to be here.
Thank you so much. We're the premise of We Take the Hill. This came about because honestly, I forgot that taking the hill is a privilege. Like, challenges that we face in life, they are a privilege, and they allow us an opportunity to set ourselves up for our next success. And I feel like when we are in the midst of it, we can forget how important and how imperative that is. But I started saying this to myself, and just to remind myself, like, I was a walk-on for cross country, and I was complaining like crazy. You've been a college athlete, complaining like crazy about a workout. But you know, as a walk-on, like you really just don't have the right to do that. Like, you are literally just showing up because you want to be there. And my coach at the time, she called me out on it. She was like, "Then quit." And I was just like, yeah, actually, you know, like, there's like, damn, like, really, that is the option. And I realized, like, I don't want to quit. Like, honestly, I don't even know why I was complaining. But it made me change my perspective. I mean, it was an instant switch of my perspective. And from then on out, hill training and hill repeats became my favorite workout. And so excited to talk about your journey today. You have such an exceptional story, and I feel like you're a prime example of like making those hardships or the valleys of your climb into like just very triumphant stories. So before we dig into your story, tell us a little bit about you.
My quick one-liner, not one line, but I'm Caite. I currently run a club called Lime Social Club. We're in Boston and New York. I focus heavily on health, wellness, and art, and bringing space to people where they can find other communities, meet new friends, try new things outside of the bar scene. Mm-hmm. I come from the background of a ton of athletics, making sure I can push myself to the limit. I went to a small liberal arts school where I feel like I was taught how to think and question a lot of things in life. And the precipice of kind of my evolution as a grown-up or a human being is that I had cancer when I was really little. Yeah. And cancer is its own beast, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but the thing that really took me out of that was getting back into playing softball and basketball and running charity events for the hospital where I was treated at. And so I feel like my adult life is pretty much a mirror image of that, in more of a, this is my job versus a hobby now. And I mean, it doesn't feel like a job, but it's, so I run a lot of social things. I am very active in the community here, and I can't wait to keep pushing my body and seeing what it can do, and pushing others to get involved in other ways that they don't expect to.
Yeah, I love that. What position did you play in basketball?
Small forward.
Small forward.
Well, my coach would probably be like, center, but we played a 4-out situation, and like the one person in was not really in. So don't catch me dribbling the ball up the court, though. That is for sure. I was not
seriously. I'm so like real talk.
It's like, I'm 6'1".
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But I'm 6'1", and like there are some girls out there that are so strong, and like sometimes you can't compete. I'm like, there's no way I'm
I
posting
had
up
to check
on
my
these.
I was like, I had to check my ego and be like, this is no longer an option for me. This worked in high school. This is no longer an option for
I
me.
remember a coach saying, you might want to practice your jump shots. And I was like, great, I'll do both.
Okay, so what we want to do is we're going to start from the beginning. I think one of the things that makes a journey is its lows and its high points. And so you found out that you had cancer at a very young age. Tell us about the story.
Yeah. So like any young child athlete, I was stuck in gym class in the 6th grade, and we had to do pull-ups. Not good at pull-ups, still not good at pull-ups. But I was so lucky to fall in front of the whole class, and I hit my chin on a pull-up bar. And after class, I was like, oh, I have this weird bump, whatever. Didn't think much of it. Months later, I checked it, and you could still feel the bump, and I had previously thought it was because I had fell. What ended up happening was I actually had been so lucky that day that I fell because I caught this really rare form of tissue cancer early in its development. So this type of tissue cancer starts in your tissue, it's a tumor, and then eats into your bone. And as it eats into your bone, it goes all the way through the bone marrow, and then once it's in the marrow, it will circulate your body. Wow. But I caught it so early that it had only started to eat at the beginning of my jawbone. So within, I don't know, 3 months, I was like, oops, this is still here. 12-year-old Katie turns to her mom. I'm like, Mom, something's wrong. After, I don't know how many doctor visits. I've never been to this many doctors, obviously, before in my life.
So so you go to the doctor, you tell them I've fallen in gym class and I hit my chin. Like, what do you tell your mom? Like, Mom, like I have this bump here. Like, what is that? I mean, if you recall, what does that conversation look like? Because as a kid, my mom would be like, you fell and you hit, you have a new bruise now. Just get over it.
I mean, I can't imagine what my parents thought or felt. I remember telling my best friend's mom the day that it happened, like I hit my chin and like I have this bump. And then 3 months later, when I told my mom, I think she kind of was like, okay, we'll keep an eye on it. And that was December. And by January, it had grown so much, you could actually see it protruding from my jaw. And so January is where I remember we went to the first doctor. And I don't know what he specialized in, but out of the movies, when like the kid is like listening into a room they shouldn't be listening into, I was deathly afraid of MRIs for some reason. Yeah. And I knew I had to get one. So my mom was like, go out of the room, go wait with your little brother. I'm sitting there in the waiting room with my brother, my cousin Mike, and Brian. And I don't know why, but I think I was like ready to cry. So I went back to the doctor's office to go to my mom. Mm-hmm. And as I'm walking back, I hear the doctor say, I think it's cancer. And so I feel like that was my first moment where I find out by accident via doctor. I don't know. My mom is standing in the room. I feel like I was old enough to know that like, something's happening.
And what made them think that it was cancer?
I don't know. Yeah. I think, it was the tumor by the time they took it out, which was June, so 6 months later. It was the size of a baseball, fully engulfed in my face. Yeah. And it ended up being I believe this is how you say it, a desmoplastic fibrosis sarcoma. And it's like 1 in a billion people get it. It's very, very rare. Especially in my age group. Yeah. And my parents are very healthy individuals. We grew up in like a suburban, tons of grass. Like it's not like we were near something that like, everybody's getting cancer nowadays. Like this was really rare. Wow. So yeah, I don't know why they knew it was cancer, but they did. And immediately my parents started asking around for doctors in the area. And I pretty much within a few weeks' time started missing school every single week for scans, CAT scans, x-rays, MRIs, whatever it could be. I had biopsies done. And then I was just lucky enough that by the time they did my final surgery in June, I was in the hospital for about 4 days. And then it never needed MRI. I didn't need any radiation or chemo. Wow. And it was only needed to be checked via MRI. So I had an MRI every single month for like 5 years. Yeah. And it never grew back. And so now I'm 16 years in remission.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. So if you see, I have a big scar.
You have a scar. Yeah. But that scar tells a lot, like a really, really great story. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like Thank God for pull-ups.
I know. Well, it's so funny because I feel like when people say like, "Oh, I can't believe you had that," I'm like, the first thing you need to know is that I fell doing a pull-up. Like that. That is the pinnacle of like when bad things happen to you.
Yeah,
like, there's
a hidden agenda. It's like,
I remember being so embarrassed.
So
that
embarrassed.
I fell.
Like, you were so embarrassed that you fell, but that fall was necessary for you to find this very rare form of cancer.
Yeah.
And it saved your life. That failure saved your life.
Yeah. What's very scary before we progress is that in April, when I had my biopsies, in hindsight, my parents did not unfold all that much information. I can't imagine telling like an 11, 12-year-old this stuff. But later on, I learned at the end of high school that they actually thought it was a type of bone cancer that I would need multiple surgeries for the rest of my life for.
Wow.
So I also feel like having it just be like a little tumor, this is like the best case scenario for a worst case scenario.
Yeah, that's a great mindset. And did you have that mindset right away, or did you develop that like later on? You were just like,
I don't know. I think I got really lucky. Like I had such great doctors and they were best in class, but they also were great people. And so every time, like, I was best friends with my radiologist. Like, every time I went in, he was like, we got your blanket ready. And they'd, like, play the movies for me. And, like, we were on a first-name basis. And my doctor, Dr. Moscatello, is now retired. Like, he was so much fun. And, like, I just think I didn't think anything of it. Like, it was just something I had to do because I had to do it. I think my parents realistically put on most of the emotional burden on themselves. I know that 10 days after my final surgery, I asked my mom if I could have a birthday party. Like, this is where my mind was at. I don't know. I think that I just knew it was going to be okay. And maybe it's because my parents sheltered me enough where I had information, but I wasn't
overwhelmed.
Yeah, overwhelmed.
So one of the things I definitely want to talk about, and I think that just being able to, like, face that challenge, like, thank you to your parents. Like,
they're the best.
Thank you to your parents. Thank you for everyone that was involved to make that moment as stress-free for you as possible, considering the situation. But I also want to just say, your mindset and your mentality is just, at such a young age, is also so great, because from this devastating thing, like, honestly, embarrassment as a child is like the worst. Like, it was devastating. Like, oh my God. From this devastating event, you were able to not only catch the cancer, you were smart enough to say, hey, something's going on. You were able to recover from this. And then after that, you still use this moment as a moment to kind of give back to your hospital. So can you tell us about what that was like, creating a charity, founding a charity at such a young age? I think that just speaks volumes to who you are.
So the June surgery is the one that I referenced the most. It was the 4 days in the hospital. And when you have any surgery that is like as invasive as that was, and it's like a baseball tumor, you are basically lopsided the next day, and like you have to relearn how to balance and walk. And maybe it's an exaggeration, but like I could not walk. The goal was, okay, Katie, you're going to teach yourself how to walk one time around the nurse's station. And I remember, I think it took me a day or two, but after the second day, like the nurses that were there with me, we were like all crying together. And I don't know if I was in the ICU or like the step below it. I don't remember. But I do remember that the kids next to me were like so much worse. Like they had been there for months and weeks. And I think I was old enough at the time to realize how much of a strain it was putting on my parents in that specific moment in the hospital. Because both my parents are very tall, but my dad's like 6'1", sleeping on a hospital bed. My best friend and her family at the time came into the hospital, and like they just were crying. And I was like, what? I'm the one that's in the bed, not like, but it was such an emotional thing for like so many people surrounding you. And I think once you're in that position of like, okay, now I'm safe and now I can take in what's happening around me, I just realized how lucky I was. Like, so many people sent me gifts and things and comfort, and I had people like dropping off mashed potatoes because I love mashed potatoes. It was a never-ending parade of people, and I think it was just such an apparent like holy guacamole moment where I have this great support system, and the kid next to me does too, but he's been here for 4 months. So I was 12 at the end of 6th grade when I had the surgery. And in the middle of my 7th grade year, I looked at my science teacher and I was like, hey, can we start a sewing club? We ended up starting a sewing club. We made pillows and blankets and donated all of them to a nearby hospital for children specifically. Yeah. And if we didn't donate them, we sold them, and whatever sales we had made went to the hospital I was treated at. Yeah. Then when I got into college, high school, I just kept doing more things like trying to create some sort of raffle. And at that point in my life, I was about 14. Basketball was really influential. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I bet I could host a tournament. Yeah. And I don't know where I got this idea from. But my assistant coach at the time, Anna Timone, who's still a very good friend, she was just talking with me. I was like, I want to do this thing, but I'm literally not old enough to rent out the gym. Like, can you rent it out for me? And she was like, how are you going to do this? And I was like, well, I talked to SYSO, which is like the Somers Youth Sports Organization. Mm-hmm. I was like, they're going to let me use their sign up thing. And Peppino's Pizza down the block is going to donate pizza. And I just need like space. And our high school gym there's multiple courts. There was 4 courts. So I was like, we could play 3-on-3, half, whatever, these age groups. And in hindsight, Timone told me that she was like, shoot, I'm about to do so much work for this kid. Yeah. But what's funny is she helped so much. But when we talk about it now, she's like, I thought I was going to be taking on I'm going to be raising money. But she's like, you really did do the work. So she rented out the gyms for me because I literally wasn't old enough. Mm-hmm. I had somebody else give me the SYSO accounts. And I just started marketing. I would send out emails. My parents really helped me. I obviously wasn't driving at 13 and 14. Yeah. And my first year, I had 30 teams sign up, and we raised $5,000. Wow. And in the silent auction, we had people donate things like box seats to the Knicks. Yeah. So it was like super fun, super great. I had a ton of volunteers. And then the next year, I was like, let's do it again. Yeah. And that year, we raised $17,000. Wow. And then my final year, senior year, my brother was really helpful as well. He was like so pumped. And he's like, I want my friends to help too. Yeah. So they popped in. And I think, again, we did like $10,000 that year. Wow. And I think it was the first like aha moment of like, community can be really great for you. Like, community did something for me in a hindsight moment. Like, they didn't all know me when I was having cancer, but they're showing up for me now, and they're showing up for these kids that they don't actually know. Yeah. So we did a lot of basketball, and then I went to play college basketball. And my coach at the time was, he's amazing. Like, he was very big on like, you push your chairs in, you tuck your shirts in, you look professional, you are professional. And I came to him and I was like, I want to do this thing called Go for Gold. And my hospital was co-sponsoring an effort here. And basically the entire Liberty League, which is the league we played in, I had emailed out to all of the head coaches on the women's side, and I think maybe the men's side, but the women's side being like, hey, I want to sub out all of our laces for gold laces, and this is the purpose, and blah, blah, blah. And they all did it. Everybody kind of hopped in, and it was like a pretty minimal lift, and all things considered. But my one fun story from that is our rival team at the time, Clarkson, just absolutely demolished us. And after the game, one of the girls came up and she was like, oh, are you the girl that did the blah, blah, blah? And like, I hated their guts. But at the same time, I was like, this is so awesome that there is this like bigger world than basketball or sports. Than just the sport. Yeah. So it was really cool. And since then, we at Lime Social Club host yearly charity fundraisers around Christmas time. And I try and lend a hand whenever I can. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Wow, that's so empowering. And I want to know, when did you realize that you had like a knack for organizing? Like, because at 12, like, did you always feel like you had this like thing for drawing people together or bringing people together? I don't know that I knew it at that age. Mm-hmm. In my early 20s, my mom at one point told me I was having like an issue with a friend. She was like, they expect this of you because like you're the connector. Like you're always the person that mixes their friend groups and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I guess you're right. Like I just never thought it was weird to mix friend groups or any of that stuff. And I don't know. I didn't realize it was a superpower until later on when people started to text me and say like, I thank you so much for introducing me to X, Y, and Z. And I was like, duh. Like, why would I not? But I love people and I love movement. And so like any place that I get to do both of those things, I'm like, I'm selfishly doing it.
Yeah.
But I'm so happy that you get to come and feel something out of it too.
Me. I love that. I think that is such this is how I explain what I do for a living. Like, I would do this for free, y'all.
Yeah.
Like, and I just love that I get to laugh and be funny, or, I mean, a lot of people don't think I'm that funny. So I just
laugh.
You know, but I'm just saying, no, you know what I mean? I just love like doing it and sweating, and like, it's just something I would do this for free. And I'm just so happy that you get to benefit from it and we get to benefit from it together. And so I think that that's exactly when you find your lane, that's exactly it. You're just like, I would do this if no one was here. And I'm just so happy that we all get to like benefit from it.
Yeah.
So I want to keep going, and I want to talk about what was next. Like, you leave college and you get into fashion.
Yeah.
So what did you studied fashion in school?
No, I did business and I minored in studio art. I always wanted to be a fashion designer. And I think the funny problem with picking a college was like the really good fashion design schools were not very good basketball schools.
Yeah.
And my dad was a big proponent of like go to business school, and I love like math is like my thing. Like I love it.
Oh my gosh, girl.
I know, crazy. But Skidmore, love Skidmore. Skidmore had a great basketball team. They had a great art program, and they had a general business major that was doing really well, and it was their largest major on campus. So I was like, perfect.
Yeah.
So I ended up going there. I did those two or all three things, whatever. But I made sure every year I interned in a fashion house to some extent. So I was at French Connection, and then somebody basically made me a barter agreement. They were like, my son wants to go to Skidmore, but we know somebody at Sam Edelman. And I was like, oh, what can I do for you to get an intro there?
Yeah.
So I ended up at Sam Edelman for 5 years in the design team, and I was in China, and I was working on their shoes and developing them, and it was super fun. But I think at the end of the day, like, my boss was so good at her job, but I did not want to grow into that job.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know what creative spaces were out there because, I mean, as you know, there's 1,000 jobs out there that nobody tells you exist in college.
Yeah.
So I was a fashion designer. During COVID, I quit. I bought a dog and I moved out to Tahoe for a year.
Yeah. What kind of dog? We're big dog lovers, so
she's 100% good girl. She is a rescue,
Okay.
but she looks like a puppy black lab.
Okay.
With pointy ears.
Okay.
Good old Macy. If you hear this, Macy. No, I'm just kidding. And after Tahoe, I was like, all right, I need health insurance again, so I'm going to go back to New York. I did shoe design for 1 year, but while I was there, that was my big pivotal year of like adulthood where I hated my job. I did not like the people I was working with or for. Like, it just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And at the time I had met some people that were writing a newsletter, and I was like, I want to learn how to copywrite. And so my friend Chevy took me under his wing. And after literally 3 months, I was copywriting for him and his company. I started my own newsletter. I was still at this job. And while I started my newsletter, I posted on my personal Instagram, like, I'm going to run every Saturday from this coffee shop. Like, anybody come with me.
Yeah.
And people started showing up.
What was the name of the newsletter?
Web3 Daily. Okay. And then my newsletter was just like CaiteOpfer.com.
Okay.
The articles are still up. They're really funny. But this was like late 2022. And so run clubs hadn't really yet popped off in New York. People at week 4 showed up, and I was like, how did you find out about this? And they're like, oh, people were talking about you at the Outdoor Voices run. I was like, oh, awesome. Cool. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. And then as I was going...
And where was the run club from? Like, what coffee shop? Where was it?
27th Street, 3rd Avenue, Sorella Coffee. It's the itty bittiest coffee shop. Okay. But it was like my neighborhood coffee shop, central location. Okay. Great lattes. So yeah, it was just 3 miles, and we did party pace, so like 10-minute miles. Yeah. Like the objective here was not to run. The objective was to like hang out with people, because I am not a big bar person. Like I drink, but like I don't drink. Yeah. And
I was gonna ask, what's the inspiration behind that? Because I also like went on like a year of just like, let's not do any type of like clubbing or bars. Yeah. Like, just get out of the bars in New York. It's so hard to just get out of a bar. Like everything you do is around alcohol.
It's so frustrating.
It's really frustrating.
Honestly, so when I'd been out west, I was with my 2 friends who I played basketball with in college, Kelly and V, and they and I like our activities were like, let's go snowboard and let's go hike and do all this stuff. And like, we were always moving.
Yeah.
And it was always active, but it never was overly exertion or whatever. Like, it was just fun. And some people would drink and some people wouldn't. And I felt like that was such a cool space to be in, where like, we're snowboarding and like, I'm not drinking, but like, you're going to have one seltzer. And like, but the person next to you can have two. Like, there's no threshold. Whereas I feel like when you're in a bar, like, you kind of have to have a drink in your hand.
Or else someone will offer you a drink.
Yes.
And then if they don't offer you a drink, they'll say, why aren't you drinking?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I just felt like this space when I came back to New York, I was living alone and I was like, I loved living alone, but I felt like when I needed to see my friends, it was, let's go grab a drink. And I was like, I don't want to spend money and I don't want to drink. Like, this is really annoying to me.
Yeah.
And that's where the run club came. And as the run club kept progressing, I kept realizing so many people felt similar.
Yeah.
So I was like, I bet I could run a comedy show. And I didn't know how to do that. But I found somebody. And then I was like, I bet I could do a dinner party. And let's do this and let's do that. And then I ran into,
so wait.
Sorry. I can keep going.
How does one get to planning a comedy show from doing a run club? How do you get there?
Well,
let us inside there. Okay.
So my friend Chevy, the one who I was writing for at Web3 Daily, his girlfriend, Sav, runs comedy shows. Okay. And I call her one day. I was like, Sav, how do I do this? Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'll pay you to basically build this for me, but I want it to fit in these parameters. And I have no money. So there's no budget. And she was like, great, this is how we're going to do it. And I was like, perfect. She brought in another girl, Emily, and they ended up running my shows for a year. Okay. And it's so funny in hindsight. My first show, I got 20 people to come, and I had the time maybe had 200 followers on Instagram. I cried. I was so happy. Wow. Like, I was like, I can't believe I sold 20 tickets. Yeah. And it was like pulling nails. Like, I think I sold 17 of them the day up for the show to my friends. Yeah. And now if I don't get like 40 people to a show, I'm throwing like a fit. But that's different.
Yeah. Okay. And so I want to know, like, so we get here to this place where we are doing the run club and doing the newsletter, not as an outlet for COVID, because obviously COVID was like the best time. You just left and you were just like, I'm going to go live in Tahoe with my dog. And like, this is awesome. Like, I'm just going to chill out. And so that was great. But then you get back and you say like, hey, like, I actually need to make some money. Like, I can't just live like, YOLO life all the time. And you get back and now you're just, for the first time, like, having this like horrible experience at your job. So that's kind of like, this is the hill like you have to face. And like, for you, connecting is kind of like your go-to. Like, you're just like, I'm gonna make something out of this. I love this because this is another time where you're just like, all right, this is a bad experience, but I'm gonna create a community out of this, and I'm gonna make this experience not as bad. And so here you are again, just like, this is a bad experience. I'm not enjoying myself, but I'm gonna make community out of this. This is what makes me happy.
What's even crazier is I got fired 4 weeks into running this like newsletter. Wow. So I had just started this, and then I get fired. No severance, nothing. Wow. I was like, all right, I'm not going to find a new job. I'm literally just going to put all my eggs in this basket and hope it works out.
Wow.
And I feel like when you listen to a lot of people who are building companies or businesses, like that whole, I need to light a fire under my ass and like, this needs to be the only option to succeed, is like, it has to basically work out. Mm-hmm. I feel like I wasn't being dumb about it. Like, I don't want to go into debt. I don't want to not be able to pay my rent. Mm-hmm. But I made a decision. I remember talking to my cousin. I was like, I'm not getting a job. I'm going to get money and I'm going to find jobs to do, but this is what I'm putting my eggs in.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I love that. Okay. And so we get here, we're actually just like, feet to the fire. Like, we're like, you got to get up there. You got to do this. So you start by doing this run. Was the run club an idea for the how I'm going to make money, or was the comedy? It was just like the run club was just something that you were doing socially.
The run club and everything was at this point, so I had gotten fired. I was doing all this stuff and I knew I wouldn't really make money, like enough money off of it. But my thinking was, I had also kind of skipped a step. I semi-owned an athletic wear company while I was in Tahoe. Yeah. And we sold to small creator economies that were looking to monetize on following. So I knew that there was money in these like communities somehow. Mm-hmm. But in the past, it's usually like influencers, right? Yeah. And I didn't want to be an influencer. I wanted to host this thing where like you just felt like there was X amount of values and like that's why you participated. So I was like, I'm gonna try and freelance. I had some friends who I knew were looking for freelance designers. I was like, I'm gonna do that for money, and I'm gonna build a community on the side and basically cut as much expenses as I can. I moved home to my parents for 4 months. Like I was like, I'm just gonna cut it in half, take in half the amount of income. But the community stuff, I was like, I feel like there's gonna be value and like monetary value in it in a few months. Yeah. But it's not financially valid right now. Yeah. So that's how it.
So you kind of saw the end game of just like, look, this is not going to bring me anything right now, but eventually it will.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like all the people I knew running run clubs were really good runners, and they were running run clubs that were built for runners. By runners. And I felt like mine was like, I'm going to build a run club that's for like movement enthusiasts, like people who are just doing it because they want to like hang out.
Yeah. Yeah. There's just like, I just want to have fun. So, okay. All right. So your run club is up and going, and then also you have your comedy show up and going, right? So how do we get to your actual club? Like, how does that develop?
So the quick synopsis, but like with enough detail.
I just want details. Okay. I like details. I'm a details girly.
I have a whiteboard that I've like moved across the country with me 3 times, and it's just a giant whiteboard. It's in my room, and on it I have 10 people that I look up to, and like they're usually entrepreneurs, like Alex Lieberman and Anne Maholm's on it, and she's the founder of Solid Core. But I'm like obsessed with these people. Like these 10 people had some sort of value that I loved.
Tell us all 10 people.
Mari Llewellyn, who owns Bloom Nutrition, Helena Hall, who owns like a bunch of companies. My friends Seb and Chevy, who were at Web3 Daily and they sold their company. Alex Lieberman, Anne Maholm. I can't think of. It's like changing, so I'm trying to think of who was on it in 2022. I'm sure they'll come to me.
Yeah. That's a good start. Okay.
Yeah, those are the ones that we need to know, because I ended up meeting everybody except for Mari.
Wow.
Yes. And what was crazy was Anne Maholm passed by me in Madison Square Park, where I used to just sit with my dog. Yeah. And I was reading, and I looked up, and she's standing there. I was like, oh, Anne. Yeah. And her name just came out. Yeah. And she was like, oh my God, hi. And I was like, as if I was starstruck. I was like, I know that you've ran every continent, like a marathon and blah, blah, blah. And I can't believe you're doing this. And I started listing off things about her. Like, she obviously knows them about herself. And I think she was just hopefully charmed by my enthusiasm. She also has gone through a lot of like sobriety and like talking about not using alcohol and all this other stuff. So that had come up, and I was like, I'm building a club that does this thing. And at the time, she was selling Solid Core and building another studio. Yeah. And she was like, email me and I'll give you studio space for free to bring your club in. And I was like, deal. Yeah. And so that was my first time working with the studio. Wow. And I sold out the class. I had 3 sponsors. We worked with Joggy and like a bunch of these other cool CPG companies to basically get their product out. I had a friend come and do photography for me. And after that, it was, I don't want to say the word easy, but it was like, I kind of understood the value now. Where I was like, these new studios need people in their studio and they want their emails. And on the flip side, people want to try new classes all the time, but they're afraid to try them alone. And even as like a gym junkie, I'm afraid to go to a new gym alone. Yeah. So I'm like, great, now if I can create a space where it's like, hey, we're all new to this. Bring a friend with you if you want. You can try it for pretty cheap. Yeah. And we'll do it together and it'll just be fun.
You know, I love this. And I love how this flows so naturally to you, and not, I want to say easily, because I know how difficult it is to create things. And so as you say these things, like, I want to point out something else to people that may not, I don't know, I don't know if it registered to you, or just maybe it doesn't register to other people. It is really frightening to like try something new. And like, honestly, there is a lot of rejection baked into what you're saying right now that like we're not discussing. But tell us about that part, because I think that, you know, it seems like, oh yeah, like I had this idea and then this idea like took off, but there's a lot of rejection baked into inviting people out to, like, you think you're going to have this many people come. these many people don't come. There's a lot of like, okay, set this up. But you're moving, you're just continuing to move forward, and it's just an idea that you have. So making an idea go from just an idea to an actualization, there's a lot baked into that. So what was that part like?
One of the people on my list who I didn't mention is Ty Haney, and she is the founder of Outdoor Voices and now has 2 other companies. And I have met her a handful of times and talked to her a lot. And she at one point like was on a panel, and I think she said something along the lines of like, literally just keep asking questions. Well, she did not say literally. I said that. She's like, just keep asking people what you want, and like be like, don't be selfish about it. Like offer them value, but like you're allowed to say like, hey, can I do this? Or like, what would you think about this? And so I feel like that's what I wasn't thinking of things as rejection. I was thinking of as like, I'm just inquiring.
I love that.
It's just like, I just want to know, like, how would I go about this? Or like, would you be interested?
Yeah.
And I had like a newsletter with like 120 people, and I literally sent out a survey, and 40 people responded, which if you're in the survey world, like that's kind of high.
A lot. Yeah. Go girl. Yeah.
So it was what I wanted to do, but I was also asking the sponsors, the studios, and the people. I was like, well, what do you need? Well, what do you need? And how would I get this? And blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. I don't think I was afraid of no, because no was not an option in the question. No was, if you said no, it'd be really weird.
Yeah. What would you, what do you need? No.
Yeah. I'm like, how can I help you?
I love that.
And a lot of free work. I did a lot of free work.
I love that. I think a reframing of like what it is that you're, not necessarily asking a question, yes or no, can I do this? Yes or no. What can I do?
Yeah.
How can I do it? Like, that takes out the no or the yes. I love that.
Yeah. And the second thing is like following up after the event and being like, this was so successful to me because I hope it was successful to you. Here's the analytics I like got from it.
Oh, I love that.
And sharing as much as I possibly could that like felt valuable for them, not for me.
Not for you. I love that. Oh, that's beautiful. Okay. So we are now in studio spaces, and we're now like partnering with different brands to get people in the studio space. At this point in time, is your social club actually named, or are you still like, what are we doing?
So we are Lime Social Club because we bring the zest to your life, which I freaking love.
I love that.
When
did you get to that? When did you get to this is Lime Social Club? So you had the Run Club, you had the comedy show going. Did this all merge into Lime Social Club? Or tell me about that.
So in April of 23, I sent out that survey to 120 people, and I put out like 4 random titles, and it was honestly just because I needed to name it.
Yeah.
And I think it's really funny now, like I don't know, like our memberships are tiered, and we have 2 tiers. One is kind of zesty or slightly zesty, and the other one is very zesty. So I feel like it's like a fun play on words. I also tend to love green. And it's like there's nothing, you can't look at a lime and be like, that's a girl or that's non-athletic or what, like there's nothing about a lime that has anything to do with athletics or art or whatever. So I feel like it's maybe bad because you don't know what it is right away when you say Lime Social Club. But on the flip side, we are not constrained to being just a run club or just a movement club. Like we can do so much. And I think that's like a lot of the power with New Yorkers is we're so multifaceted. I don't want to be constrained to just an athlete. Like I'm significantly more than that. And that's what Lime Social Club is. Like we allow you to be every part of you, and we're going to help you get into spaces that allow you to do that.
I love that. So tell us about Lime Social Club in the space that it occupies now.
Yeah, so we are now in New York City and in Boston. We host weekly events, sometimes twice a week, and we work with a ton of partners like Hoka, and we have done everything from vision boarding classes to hosting comedy shows and dinner parties, and it's honestly just a ton of fun. We've grown. Now we're at about 2,000 members, and like this time last year, I only had 200 members. So it's gotten quite large. And we have a bunch of regulars, which I think is the best thing ever, is that people can come and there's familiar faces, and it's not just me. It's like a lot of other people, which is awesome.
Well, thank you so much. This is so awesome. Tell people where they can find you, how they can participate.
Love. You can find Lime Social Club on Instagram at @LimeSocialClub_. And we also have a community platform, which is limesocialclub.rexengine.com. And I'm on Instagram as Katie My Lady, but I spell my name really funny, so good luck finding that.
I will make sure that I put it in the show notes so that everybody can find you. Thank you so much for sharing your journey, your ups and downs, and like from turning cancer or cancer diagnosis. Well, actually, you know what? Starts with the embarrassment first.
Oh my God, yeah. It starts with a bad chin up.
Starts with your bad chin, turning a bad chin up to catching cancer. And then after defeating cancer, turning that into a charity organization where you were able to give back to the hospital and to the people that helped you. And then turning this bad, funky job that decided that like, hey, we're going to fire you. And then you turn that into something like, thank you.
I love
turn
that
into an entire community. Where you help other people discover new ways to move, new ways to socialize. So thank you so much for just always taking the hill. And I am so excited that we get to share this share your story with
Thank you for having me. It's been so much fun.
Thank you so much. All right. How difficult the journey, no matter how hard the climb, we take the hill every damn